Welcome, everyone, to the Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream. Today is April 19th. Happy Friday to everyone. It's Friday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the days blur. I sometimes I don't know what day is which. Here with Neil Aquino from the Houston Democracy Project and Jalen with Afro Communiversity. You can follow on social media at Afro Communiversity on all the platforms. So we're here to talk about the extremism that we are seeing from Tarrant County Judge Tim O'Hare. Uh, Tim O'Hare was elected in 2022 after being mayor in Farmers Branch in Dallas County, and has shown that he is fully committed to the far right agenda in trying to um, use democracy to undermine democracy and then put in place an authoritarian government. So, Jalen, you are in Tarrant County, actively organizing, connecting with leaders, building power. What are your thoughts on what is happening in Tarrant County right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely awful. Especially as a Black woman, it hits home. I think what I have really been following is how do we make sure more folks who live at the intersections of activism and doing business are showing up informed, are moved by what's happening so that when it's time to go to the polls, do this, that, and the third, they're ready and they're activated. So I'm trying to make sure and follow and figure out all at the same time. How do we get more folks who are Black, who do business, who do social entrepreneurship to be informed and care? So that's what I've been following.
Yeah, we want to highlight for folks that yesterday community leaders came together um, to call out what O'Hare had done most recently, which was to tell the only woman on the commissioner's court who's also a Black woman, Alyssa Simmons from Precinct 2, to sit there and be quiet because he was talking as they were having a discussion. And she was challenging his desire to use taxpayer dollars for a political consultant. We have Pastor Bell, who does amazing work with Unity in the Community, Stella Williams, the Tarrant County NAACP president, and Arlington NAACP president, Pastor Kennedy Jones, speak out with other community members about what O'Hare is doing. And I think it's so important what you said, Jalen, about this intersectionality of business, because as we've talked to community members and community leaders, we still see too many in Tarrant County that are staying silent around these issues. And a lot of it is out of concerns of their paycheck. And this fundamentally is a reason why Tarrant County is the epicenter of extremism. What are some of the things you feel like you're seeing people starting to change potentially in their involvement and participation in what's going on?
Yeah, I think we're at a place where folks are figuring out the best places to get news and get information. Like we're back there. And of course, building up the stamina, the mental health, the self-care support to continue to stay in the know about what's going on, which is a big part of what I do in my work is how do we keep folks stamina up? How do we keep folks inspired in the small, subtle ways? So when the time happens, right, or when something comes up, again, they can be activated. So that's what I see a lot of folks doing, trying to figure out where they can be educated in a way that doesn't feel so extractive or doesn't feel so pessimistic or cynical, just for their daily lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we have limited time with you this morning, Jalen, because you are busy doing the great work that you do So want to check in to see if you have to bounce. If not, we'll definitely love to have you for a few more minutes.
Yes, I
Um,
do. I have to open another Zoom room.
Okay. Well, Jalen, I hope we get a chance for thanks for being. I hope we get a chance for a much longer because so many beyond the Fort Worth-ish Tarrant County, so many of the things you mentioned are exactly the stuff we talk about.
Yes. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see y'all again.
Thank you, Am.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Jalen.
Perfect.
Alrighty, Neil. So that's definitely, as someone in Tarrant County and connecting with organizers and leaders who are trying to address the multitude of issues we have in Tarrant County. Jalen is absolutely a leader in this space, a
Right.
connector of of what is of what we need to try to accomplish,
Yeah.
and an innovator in terms of what she's doing. And so her Afro Community
Yeah.
um, organization, her company, and her efforts and her collaborations um, are so impactful. And we just need more people to understand this intersectionality between activism, advocacy,
Right.
and business. And a lot of times we keep this separate. And I know we've talked about this a lot. Um, there is, we've referenced for folks the executive and managerial class of our communities and how unfortunately it is designed for them to be participating in the status quo.
Right.
And when you are in a place like Tarrant County and when we're in a state like Texas, the status quo is doing harm to our communities. And
Right.
so we've got to figure out how to navigate that. Um, and and I see too many people still struggling with that.
Right. 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 And I had not, so my interaction with Jalen has been these 7 minutes and then about 10 minutes before we went on. But so obviously she's talking about things specific to her, specific to Black women, specific to Tarrant County. But those themes of keeping people inspired and her use of the word extractive, of course, has a lot of meanings, and there are certainly some specific to the communities. But that extractive nature we have talked about, no doubt aligned, and a portion of what she was saying was the extractive nature of political activism and activism, where our resources, effort, time, inspiration, morale, hope, optimism get sucked away by the people we're theoretically benefiting. Um, but the ecosystem that sustains us is not inherently the ecosystem that sustains our elected officials or people linked to elected officials or in their orbit. So I hope we get a chance. I'd love to just sit with her, with Jalen on a show and develop some of that stuff.
Yeah, Jalen is definitely connected to the Tarrant for Change network, and then of course Tarrant for Change is connected to the Texas Grassroots Alliance.
Yeah.
And so Tarrant for Change has done a great job of building relationships and starting connections with over 200 different organizers and leaders in the county,
Yeah.
and continuing to connect with more. And this is what we talk about when we're trying to build infrastructure. Organizational infrastructure is so much about the relationships and connections. We have to first be aware of each other, but then
Right.
we want to get to a point to where we can build trust, build relationships, so then we can work together,
Right.
and we can figure out how to be effective in working together. And all of those efforts take time. They take time for us to be able to navigate our schedules, to navigate our just our work and whatever our focus is on. But this is why we want to fund grassroots organizers, because they need to be able to have the resources to be able to allocate the time to be able to make these connections and build these relationships. And I think that's something that just is fundamentally not understood by folks. Um, and I think for folks that we talk about who have this intersectionality with business, who have um, responsibilities in the executive and managerial space of institutions and companies and organizations. I think sometimes they take for granted that there is a lot of infrastructure built for them to be able to make these connections and to build this relationship. So whether that's going to the chamber meeting or whether that's going to the gala at a university or a larger nonprofit space who can afford to put on a gala, right? Um, all of these things are positive in terms of wanting to make connections and build relationships. But once again, it's not in the space around trying to have a more necessarily more safe, just, equitable, and inclusive society, because they unfortunately can be utilized for the status quo and for the systems of power that are already in place. And when you're looking at something like Tarrant County, then unfortunately you become complicit in supporting the things that are causing harm to so many community members, when that is the focus. So I think, I'll share a little bit of the interactions I had with community leaders yesterday at the press conference.
Before you do that,
Yeah.
So we rushed in a little bit because Jalen had limited time. So this is Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream, and we do these programs twice a week, different times, different hosts, different formats, different guests. Alex and I have been the hosts of most so far, but we hope to expand that. And we want Texas grassroots organizers to have their own networks of safety, communication, ideas, support, action, communication. And we're glad that you're watching. You can watch this program, share it. You can support the Texas Grassroots Alliance, Alex's group, Tarrant for Change, the Houston Democracy Project, which you can Google at HoustonDemocracyProject.com. But that's what this program is, and we are doing these programs through the election and beyond. So very good. So Alex, you're talking about community interactions around the extremist county judge and leadership in Tarrant County.
Yeah, so I think for today's show, we really want to catch everyone up. I had to start off the show in another spot in my space, and now I was able to move back to my normal spot. So the joys of navigating live streams, right?
Right.
So for a lot of folks who may not be aware, there has been an accumulative impact of what is happening on the Commissioner's Court now that it's led by Tarrant County Judge Tim O'Hare. Tim O'Hare was elected in 2022. He's a former mayor of Farmers Branch and had shown extreme racist perspectives on the things that he was pursuing.
There was some bullshit that came out of Farmers Branch, right? Wasn't under the news for a while? Was he the mayor? Was some racial, some shit?
Yeah. There was definitely some issues that he ended up utilizing a lot of resources to fight claims of discrimination that were happening within Farmers Branch, and wasting a lot of the resources because of just his views and his agenda and everything.
And the people of Tarrant County rewarded him for that, regretfully, with the top spot.
Yep. So he won the Republican primary in 2022, beating former Mayor Betsy Price.
Okay.
Betsy Price had been the mayor, I believe, for about 8 years in Fort Worth, was very well known by people throughout Tarrant County as well as throughout Texas. Kind of I guess you would classify as an old school Republican, didn't show extremism like a Trump, but also didn't, support all the policies that we actually need to support for the change in and the things we need to address.
Sure.
Just so it was problematic.
Kirk Watson, it's all the same bullshit. Yeah.
We had a situation where a citizen of Fort Worth and Tarrant County, Jacqueline Craig, had an incident with the police, and it was recorded, and the community was very frustrated with that. And this is just a little story of Betsy Price. Betsy Price gets pulled into community meeting. Everyone's kind of calling her out, and she decides to say, okay, we need to just quit our bitching. This is not what we're going to do. And that really sums up Betsy Price,
Sure.
That old school Republican. But, I think for a lot of folks, they assumed that county judge was her next move or what she wanted to do. And so being as well known as she was, that she would probably get that nomination. O'Hare ended up going, real extreme in his campaign to where he called out Betsy Price as a supporter of Black Lives Matter. As horrible as that is, right?
Right.
For Republicans, it's how dare you support Black Lives Matter, which Tim O'Hare and Betsy Price, right? I'm merging them together.
Sure.
Because this is what happens. So Betsy Price responds back with her own ad saying, "I am not a supporter of Black Lives Matter."
Sure.
So on the Republican side in the primary of 2022, we saw the two leading candidates in the primary fight over how much they don't support Black lives.
Right, of course.
And she ended up losing because what a lot of folks in Tarrant County had not realized at that time and still don't realize today is how extreme certain pockets of power have developed in Tarrant County.
Mm-hmm.
And
or never reformed.
Never reformed.
Never reformed from Jim Crow days, right?
That could be another way of looking at it. Maybe never reformed from joining the Confederacy.
Right. So there's been manifestations of this extremism in the treatment of a county commissioner, and activists have responded.
Right. And so the next battle that he had was against Deborah Peoples, who had running against Betsy Price for mayor and almost won. She almost became the first Black mayor of Fort Worth and Black woman mayor of Fort Worth, but unfortunately didn't get the votes for a lot of reasons. And I could look at probably more moderate conservative / liberal Democrats being a part of the problem of why Deborah Peoples didn't win.
Sure.
And so Deborah Peoples was the candidate on the Democratic side for county judge. She did not win that race. Of course, O'Hare won, and we immediately saw this alignment between County Judge Tim O'Hare, Sheriff Bill Wayborn, and District Attorney Phil Sorrells, who were all supporters of Trump. All were election deniers in terms of supporting Stop the Steal,
Sure.
And have regularly had people like Kyle Rittenhouse or Nick Fuentes be connected to them through their associations.
Sure.
And so these are the worst of the worst, when it comes to the extremism on the far right side.
And they're winning Republican primaries.
Yeah, they're winning Republican primaries and they're winning general elections. And so I'm going to share with everyone kind of a list of things that have been accumulated by Texas We Have a Problem, which is a grassroots effort around fighting extremism throughout the state of Texas, and has done different actions to try to get people connected and aware to what's happening in Texas. There is a current campaign, a letter campaign effort to get people mobilized to write letters to Tim O'Hare to call out his extremism.
I don't think that's on. Are you scrolling? I don't think that's on screen.
Oh, yeah. There we go. So let me go back here. So there's this current campaign to call out his extremism. Now, let's be honest. We know that if we got 1 million letters sent to O'Hare via email or mailed, that's not going to stop this guy. But the reason we do letter campaigns like this is for people to move from a position of non-action to action. And then we want to connect with people who are taking action so that we can do other actions together. And so it's really important that we give people opportunities to take action, so they can get involved. And when they get involved, we can then get connected to build power together.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the expectations is that this is going to change the man, and it's not going to, but it's about us having pathways to build our power. So here's a list of articles that people can get, and I'll put this in the chat real quick, so folks who are watching can get this.
And if you're watching, we'd love to have your comment, your question.
Yeah, it's we're on. Neil, do you want to tell people where we're streaming from right now?
We are on the Texas Grassroots Alliance Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And the Texas Grassroots Alliance maintains a YouTube channel that you can go to and see all of the archived Texas Grassroots Alliance live streams programming. It's excellent program. It holds up. It holds up weeks after it's aired and through multiple viewings. And you can watch and share it on the Texas Grassroots Alliance YouTube program and channel. And you find us also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Global. It's a global network.
There you go. There you go. So the campaign letter has been posted in all the platforms. So if you're watching us on Instagram or any Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you can get access to it. But I'm going to walk through a little bit of it. So we have, as soon as O'Hare came into office, he started challenging the elections administrator, the nationally recognized elections administrator that Tarrant County had. And he resigned because of the issues that were being proposed with the elections.
I remember
and Hyder Garcia is now in Dallas County after taking a stint with some national work around elections. And so his resignation was the first signal of what O'Hare was trying to accomplish. And this was in April of 23. So after the November 2022 election,
sure,
just 5 months after that election, we are to start seeing these kind of shifts and these kind of changes.
Even after they win, right? The Republicans hold Texas, O'Hare wins, and still they're in there.
Yeah, and Tarrant County even had a forensic examination on its elections and found no issues with it.
Sure.
The other thing we've seen O'Hare do is block funding for Girls Inc. in Tarrant County. Yeah. This is state funding that the organization was supposed to be getting, and he voted to block them getting funding, right. Which the community ended up mobilizing to raise the funds to replace what was being missed. But his reason was that the county government should not be passing money from some other source for an organization that is so deeply ideological and encourages the children that they are teaching to go advocate for social change. Mm-hmm. So it's plain as day. He does not want to see pushback on his kind of viewpoints. And while he tries to install an authoritarian government, he doesn't want people to have the ability to try to stop it or to know how to stop it.
Right. And then multiply him times folks all over the country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Tarrant County Judge, Sheriff, and DA launched their election integrity unit.
Right. Election integrity. Right.
Which is, them trying to say that, things need to be looked at around Tarrant County elections, even though there have been in-depth audits and never an issue found sure. with the election. And at one point, O'Hare was interviewed and he was asked, we're going to do whatever it takes for people to feel like the elections are secure. So if people are not feeling like the elections are secure, then that means we need to do something to make sure that they feel like
Right.
elections are secure.
Right.
Which tells you everything, that it's not based in fact, it's not based in any kind of reality. It's only based in the extremism of what the Republican Party is pushing people to think, and further, let me go further, pushing for what people to feel.
Right.
Um,
Right. To go back to Jalen, this stuff is extractive of our sanity.
yeah.
Right. We got to deal with all the problems in the world, and we got to deal with this shit.
So next up, O'Hare then had related to elections. They just voted on in April that Tarrant County will switch to pre-numbered ballots following the party line vote on the commissioner's court. So the 3 Republicans voted for this, and the 2 Democrats did not. And this once again was reinforced by Democratic Party election chair Crystal Gaydon for Tarrant County that, this is an expense that's not needed. And the system has shown that there is no need to put these additional measures. And so you have Wayborn using language like the sheriff, I think this will improve the trust of the system. I think it's well worth the cost to help give people confidence in what we're doing.
Right.
But once again, they're not going to put all of their guarantees around it, right? Because they still want room to be able to show that, oh no, we need to do more. We need to do more around elections to get to their eventual goal, which is, limit the amount of people who are voting.
Right. Or to overturn a result.
Exactly that. So the other thing that has happened this year is that there was a meeting where judges and community members, also the first week of April, this whole month of April has been a better month for O'Hare and the Commissioner's Court, but the first week of April, they came out with a lot of the stuff they're trying to achieve. And so what they wanted to do was have the staff of the judges report to the county's administrator. So instead of the criminal judges having these employees, it would affect 63 employees. They wanted the county administrator to be the boss over these folks. And this is hugely problematic because you have an executive branch in local government wanting control over staff members in the judicial branch. And so the judges came out and pushed against this. Community leaders pushed out against this. And what they decided to do was to make a committee to hear more stakeholders around this. And the dangerous part of a committee when it comes to something like this is that they're just trying to find what terms they can negotiate to get everyone on board.
And plus, what it also indicates to me is that they don't intend to lose the election. Because if I were doing that as O'Hare, I'd be like, well, what happens when a Democrat is selecting the county administrator? So that to me suggests that Commissioner O'Hare is like, oh yeah, by hook or crook, I'm going to be there in 6 years, 10 years, and we're going to have. So that just they put in. They don't intend to lose any elections.
Right. Exactly. We've seen where the Commissioner's Court has reallocated money from housing and education to law enforcement initiatives.
Sure.
This is something that we have been talking about here in the Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream, that with Trump's plan and the Republicans' plan to do migrant roundups, they need the infrastructure to be able to implement that locally.
A local authoritarianism will require a local infrastructure. Absolutely. And it'll be people, it'll be your neighbor, it'll be your workmate, it'll be your brother-in-law. They will be the instruments of it, or they will be supporters of it.
Right. And so this is where we see in Tarrant County them using every opportunity they can to put more money into law enforcement.
Right. Oh, yeah.
To put more money into the jails. The Tarrant County jails, where multiple people have died, without any real answers behind those deaths and documented mistreatment of people in those jails. Of course, last year we called out in Tarrant County as well as in Austin and Houston all the Republicans that had been taking money from the Defend Texas Liberty PAC, which was developing strategy with Nazis. And so we were outside the commissioner's court. We had some organizers come together. Tim O'Hare takes Nazi cash. And to let people know that this was not acceptable. And going back to what Jalen was talking about, this was an incident where not only did we have Nick Fuentes in Fort Worth strategizing with this PAC around, Texas politics and things, but we also had some folks dressed in Nazi clothing and outfits go dine at restaurants.
Right. Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Go to the local botanical gardens and things like that. And what we did not see was any established leaders, any established, whether from Democrats or from the business or from anyone else, call out this extremism in our community. Nobody made a statement. Nobody was doing anything. So organizers came together to call this out, to get it in the media. And then we saw some candidates respond. Then we saw some people start talking about things. But there is an environment in Tarrant County where those who are in positions of power and privilege continue to stay silent.
And they won't defend their own. They won't defend their own visions. And that's, of course, to get back to extractive, they won't defend their own really just centrist visions of how society ought be. And we get activists, we end up defending the systems that marginalize us. We're doing the work that the Chamber of Commerce and the elected officials ought to be doing, and the civic fathers and mothers ought to be doing, of calling out extremism. We're calling it out in many respects just to maintain the shit we have, let alone the better world we envision. And then we're marginalized for essentially protecting mainstream systems that don't serve us. And that is, and then we're marginalized. That's an extractive thing right there.
Absolutely. So that's going to take us almost to the present here, Neil, to where it was recently reported this last week that with the appraisal district race in Tarrant County, which Neil and I talked about earlier this week about the importance of these appraisal districts and how they were being leveraged and utilized from being appointed positions to now elected positions in the top 50 counties in the state. And we see an example in Tarrant County of how important these are to the Republican far-right agenda, because we have O'Hare being called out for pressuring people not to run for the appraisal district. So a candidate for the district board alleges that County Judge Tim O'Hare tried to pressure him into dropping out of the race because they want their people in these seats for a particular reason. And this Colleyville City Council member, Chuck Kelly, who is a contributor to some of this extremism in the county, can't even get aligned with people who are on the same side because they want to make sure they have the right person in there. And he's even calling out O'Hare, saying this seems counterintuitive to the idea of free and fair elections that O'Hare talks about so much when it comes to their election integrity task force and needing pre-numbered ballots and all this kind of stuff. And yet here he is interfering with who is going to run for these particular offices and things like that. Go ahead.
It's all bullshit. That's what I got.
Absolutely. So this takes us to our latest, which is what happened with Tarrant County Commissioner Alyssa Simmons, who represents Precinct 2, covers the Arlington area, Mansfield area, and parts of Fort Worth and Tarrant County. And Alyssa has been doing an amazing job of calling out what has been happening in the county commissioner's court. Not only has she challenged votes around changes that they are trying to pursue, but she's also called out the county administrator, because the county administrator will leave her off of communication, won't include her in debriefs.
Right.
And she had to call him out in a meeting to say that this will no longer be tolerated. This will no longer will happen. And we'll continue to call them out because this county administrator that has been appointed is doing the bidding and the work of this far right agenda, right? So I want to pull up the clip here. So let me stop sharing for a second. While I pull this up, Neil, if you don't mind reminding folks where we are streaming and how they can support us here.
Right. So the Texas Grassroots Alliance live stream. Thanks for watching. If you're watching, we'd be happy to have your comment or question in the chat. And you're watching us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The Texas Grassroots Alliance YouTube page channel has all of our previous broadcasts. They're available to watch any hour of the day. You wake up 2, 3, 4 in the morning, go right to our program. It's so stimulating, though. It won't help you get back to sleep, unfortunately. It'll just cause you to watch another one. And there is the QR code to donate to the Texas Grassroots Alliance. We're creating our own networks of safety, communication, ideas, and action. And Alex, Tarrant for Change, myself, Houston Democracy Project. Those are grassroots things that you can support as well.
Let's see. Let me get this pulled up for everyone so they can see what happened.
That's right.
When Alyssa Simmons was challenging O'Hare.
That's right. Now to the replay. She's not audible, Alex. I'm not sure if you're hearing that.
Oh, let me fix that here, everyone. Sorry about that.
Not sure. Not sure if you're not hearing that. Audible is a fancy word for she can't. You can't hear her, right? I could have used the basic language.
All right, let me fix what's going on here.
That's live programming. We're having a technical delay. You get the full. This is a high quality performance here, and you get all of the aspects.
There you go. You let me know if you can hear this or not, Neil.
Yep.
Are you getting audio?
No, Norvit. No, for the enhanced technical glitch experience, neither audio nor visual.
Oh, neither one, huh?
That's right. You get the full package here at Texas Grassroots Alliance.
Hey, we keep it grassroots.
That's right.
There's a grassroots organizer that I love dearly out of Denton, Sharon Kramer. If she ever sees this video, she'll get tickled by it. She always says, "Hey, in grassroots, we keep it crunchy."
That's right.
That was her term. We keep it crunchy.
That's right.
So let me see. I think what I'm going to have to do is move this to another browser here real quick, and we should be good once I. So once again, we are recapping the extremism of Tarrant County Judge Tim O'Hare and what he is doing to reshape Tarrant County into an authoritarian spot.
That's right.
And we are going to put on this little video recap of the latest incident with Alyssa Simmons. So let us turn this on.
Rules for political work with Tarrant County employees. Like, Tarrant County employees can't do political work. There are no similar rules for contractors, therefore it's not appropriate to replace a full-time person with a contractor. And this similar item was on the agenda last week for Commissioner Ramirez. Going out to seek contracts. So clearly, just like in my precinct, you need help. I adopted an organizational chart when I was elected. I'm simply going by that org chart. I'm not adding contractors and the like. So I didn't support it last week. I won't support it this week. If that's what we're doing, then all 5 court members, we just need to budget for it and say we're going to do, each of us is going to hire a Democratic or Republican consultant to work on our official offices, which is wholly inappropriate.
I think there's some very clear distinctions. In the first one, the reason why I support this is because it's being efficient with resources. Instead of hiring a new employee or paying out of class pay, what I see, and I don't know exactly what the needs of the county judge's office are, but I will defer to the judgment of the county judge, knowing that he's in that office every single day, and recognizing that he may need this help that he's asking for, that he's asked a contract to go through the DA's office to vet to make sure that everything was good. I trust that that's what he needs, and he's accomplishing it without hiring additional personnel. As we can see, some offices operate more efficient than others, and I think this is an effort to continue that, in my opinion. So I don't think that there's any clear distinction between out of class pay or hiring this employee on a contract basis, except we're trying to do more with less.
So this was passed in the budget. We had a similar contract last year, which I believe was approved unanimously. But I'm glad you brought up that there's rules for employees about what they can or cannot share. So do you think your Twitter account is free of politics? Do you think your tweets are political?
Which Twitter? I have
Tarrant
5
County
Twitter
Commissioner
accounts.
Lisa Simmons, Commissioner A.L. Simmons, is that free of politics?
Didn't say anything about my social media.
Well, I'm asking, because you're the one bringing it up. Is it free of politics?
No, just like yours.
It's very political. You would agree with that?
No, it's not very political.
Do you think it's political in nature in any of your tweets?
Occasionally.
Okay.
All
So
right, what about yours?
Your bio.
Since we're
I run my Twitter, but I'm the one talking now, so you'll sit there and be quiet and listen while I talk, and then you can talk
won't tell
later.
me when
You will.
not to talk.
So
I run my
here is
Twitter,
your
too.
Twitter feed. This account is run by the commissioner staff. That's
All right, so we'll stop there because that's the exchange that has gotten everyone. There was a later exchange in that meeting where, as Alyssa Simmons was challenging him, he retorted back, "Can you have a semblance of class? Just a semblance of class?"
Sure.
Continuing to try to put this narrative that she is incompetent in what she's doing by challenging them, by trying to use taxpayer dollars for political consultants.
Right.
And I think one thing that Alyssa does very well is sometimes you're trying to think about what you're trying to say, but sometimes you choose to take your time. And when you know someone is an authoritarian figure and is impatient and doesn't want to be questioned in power, sometimes when you take a little extra time to get through that challenge, you can see, if people go back to the playback, how Tim O'Hare is getting impatient and getting frustrated and is getting riled up, because of what she is challenging him on. And you can see that they prepared this little retort about her Twitter account, which is hilarious, because we're going to highlight what he does with his Twitter account in a second. But he absolutely is very political with his Twitter account, and is also extreme with his Twitter account. But just the amount of disrespect that was given to Alyssa Simmons, Commissioner Simmons, is what the community is fighting against and challenging. And so I want to share the community members that came together, that we highlighted earlier, with Jalen. We have Pastor Bell. He's a convener and organizer of Unity in the Community Coalition, which does a lot of work around trying to get resources to community members. They will partner with different organizations, have different events so community members can come and get connected to resources, as well as just trying to get information out to community members. We had the Arlington NAACP President, Pastor Kennedy Jones, and then Tarrant County NAACP President, Estella Williams, all speak at this press conference, calling out the disrespect. And so Michael Bell says, this is not about political party or political affiliation. This is about a judge who chooses to disrespect repeatedly a colleague who happens to be African American and a woman. And then Estelle asked for community members to show up to the next Commissioner Courts meeting on May 7th to push back on this behavior and to just continue to push back on this extremism that we're seeing. And O'Hare actually doubles down after this press conference yesterday, and late in the evening doubled down by saying not Alyssa's name, but the commissioner of Precinct 2 has a history of alleging unfounded racism. And made all of these claims of unfounded racism when she's challenged inequities and when she's challenged decisions around different things, and simply calls it a sideshow, and that he will continue, through his spokesperson, Ruth Ray, will continue to focus on important issues facing the people of Tarrant County, including tax relief, maintaining law and order for everyone, and running an efficient, responsible government. And so that tells everyone what his focus is on. And I'll pull up his statement here just so folks can see a little snapshot of it, but it's also definitely available online for folks to read and everything, from his Twitter account where it was posted. So here are the group of community members and leaders who came out together, as well as some other organizations. I was fortunate enough to be able to be there after the press conference was over, to talk to community leaders, to continue to see how we can take some next steps around.
But, there should have been, first of all, the best to those people. There should have been 100 folks. It should have been Democratic electeds or their staffers, labor, whatever the advocacy groups in Tarrant County are, and surrounding counties, in support. Obviously, you're next to Dallas, so bless these people. But it's always important to always see who's not there too.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, is that this was a rapid response. I think this is why we need to build our networks and build our connections, so that we can more readily be available for rapid response situations like this. There was definitely other orgs there that aren't in the picture, but definitely not a representation of everyone. There was a few elected officials. I spoke to one of the councilmen, Fort Worth City Councilman there. Behind Dr. Bell in the blue, there's a gentleman in a hat. That's Wallace Bridges, who's on the 4th ISD School Board. There was a candidate for State House rep and also a candidate for a judicial seat there. But definitely not enough. There needs to be more people not only participating in an action like this, but actively communicating to the public about the issues that are happening with the county commissioner's court, because so many people just don't know. A lot of people don't know what the county commissioner court does, and then a lot of people don't know who the players are, and then therefore they're not going to know what the impacts of what's happening. So,
or have any confidence in responding.
Right, and so we need people who are in positions of privilege who do know this stuff, who interact with them, who are a part of institutions and established positions to do their job, to do their part, because grassroots organizers will continue to do their work to engage the community, to connect the pieces, to organize and educate. But getting this in the media is a big part of helping us get through some of the spaces we need to get through. And so I think in Houston, y'all saw that with the Kim Ogg fight during the primary. One of the biggest benefits of what had her lose that vote really in the early voting period was how much information and communication was being distributed for voters to understand what was going on.
Right, that is true. And in addition to that successful effort, this isn't any kind of like boastful statement. It's just, I've been quoted in the paper two or three times in the last 2 years, and I've had my picture in the paper, and I've had a couple of people say, "How do you always get in the paper?" Because I showed up, not because I'm some genius. Showing up. If you show up, showing up really is half the game. And these reporters, once they're at an event, they will focus on the people who are there. And if you are one of the people there, you may well have a chance to get your views in. So the rank and file folks just showing up can help you get that forum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this brings us to the present of what has happened in Tarrant County. It's not going to stop here. There are 2 elections around the commissioner's court that are going to be happening in November. Right now, there's going to be a runoff between 2 Democratic candidates, Roderick Miles and Kathleen Hicks. That's going to happen in the second election in May. But then we'll have the general election where Precinct 1 has been held by a Democratic elected official. There's, expectation that it'll still remain one of the Democratic candidates that are in the runoff once they get to the general. But the other one is Precinct 3, which is in Northeast Tarrant. Laura Lehman is a Democratic candidate running against Matt Krause, who used to be in the state legislature.
Oh, I remember that name, yeah.
Yeah, Matt Krause is the one who introduced the, was it 1,400 books or 100? Was it 140 or 1,400?
I don't know.
I can't remember the count anymore. It seems like so long time ago. But he's one that introduced the books to be banned and created the initial list. And you could tell the list he introduced wasn't done by him or his staff because it was simply copied and paste. There was titles that didn't make sense. There was duplications. There was all these kind of issues with the list. But he has been on the forefront of trying to implement a book ban across the state, and has been has gone after a couple of different positions after leaving the state house, and now is running for county commissioner's court.
No doubt.
And O'Hare loves Matt Krause.
Yeah.
And so, if folks in Tarrant County want to start making an impact on this extremism, that's a race that's important. The other race that's important in Tarrant County is sheriff. Sheriff Wayborn is up for re-election in Tarrant County. And it is the trifecta of the county judge, the sheriff, and the DA that is trying to implement a lot of the infrastructure for an authoritarian government, that their progress can be stopped by defeating the sheriff. And so Tarrant County's got a lot at stake in this election. And it's really going to come down to, will people step up to actually talk about this issue, to actually stand up against this extremism, or will they seek some sort of comfort or safety while this extremism and infrastructure is being built in front of them?
Yeah.
Yep. That's the big question for us, right?
Yeah. That's not much I can add. Are people going to stand up? You framed it correct, right? Are people going to stand up? It's there, and people also need to ask their civic leaders, whomever they may be in your community, to speak up as well, because what gets defined as centrism keeps getting moved to the right. And we should celebrate bipartisanship, and there is a place for compromise, but at some point you have to, point we've reached, even when there are positive policy agendas reached by cooperation and bipartisanship, if you're conducting it with an authoritarian whom is actively seeking to take away your rights in this election cycle, what's worth it? And those are discussions we're going to continue to have, because they're not, I don't know that they're complicated questions, but they evoke a lot of responses, and there are issues at stake for people who need things that Republican politicians have the capacity to extend.
Well, I'm going to leave us with a couple of things. I want to share some of the things that I've shared on my personal Instagram, because there's a revelation of new things that have happened this morning, and so I want to share with folks what those are. So let me pull this up for everyone so they can see. Let's see here. All right, we're back in the joys of being in a live stream and needing to make some pivots and adjustments around getting this ready for everyone. All right, let's see. This is pulling up. If it doesn't work out, I may save it for another a live stream, but I think we may get there.
Very good. Don't forget your appraisal district elections. They're coming up in Harris County. Position 1, Kathy Bluford Daniels. Position 2, Melissa Noriega. Position 3, Palumi Adelke. Don't let Republicans get 3 more elected officials for their authoritarian, revenue-starving public school attacking intentions.
All right, you let me know if you can see this.
Yeah.
All right, so hashtag Timmy Tantrum is what we want to have trending on social media. So if you're posting anything about this, hashtag Timmy Tantrum is the thing to utilize. This is a local news report that United Fort Worth shared. This is the statement that we shared earlier. And this is the piece I want to share with y'all. I'm officially blocked on Twitter. And we want folks to remember.
Isn't that illegal?
That we want to make sure that people know that Tim O'Hare runs his Twitter like he says. So when you call him out on his Timmy tantrums, and when you challenge him, this is what he'll do. He wants to block you off from engagement. He wants to remove you from being able to hold him accountable. And it actually is illegal, right?
Yeah,
so
official account. I don't know this. I know there was a recent Supreme Court ruling. Is that just pertain to official accounts or?
So my understanding, we're going to dig into this, but my understanding is that if he's using his account, even his political account, for official commissioner, county judge work, then that therefore is the official account. So he's trying to get away with it by not having two separate accounts, one for his county judge and one for his political one.
Sure.
But I'm looking forward to us challenging that being blocked and him blocking others. So
Great.
So we will see how it goes. But the Timmy tantrums continue, and we're going to continue to fight them. And we want folks to be aware of what's happening in Tarrant County. And if you're in Tarrant County, we want you to get involved.
Perfect. We want you involved in every county, big and small. Across
Absolutely.
Texas. Small counties too, where it's a tough environment.
All right, Neil. Well, that ends our show. We went pretty long today. There's a deep dive into Tarrant County Judge Tim O'Hare. Thanks everyone for being with us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you. Thanks for getting all that stuff together, Alex. And we're going to stay the course.